Hello, elementary school students across America and on United States military bases around the world. This is Michael T. Mondak Reads. I'm the eponymous Michael T. Mondak, back with you on this Tuesday, reading one picture book virtually to you, your parents, and your teachers. But I can't do it without a preview as to what I'll be reading. Here it is for this Tuesday. A sleepover at a friend's house. It's a rite of passage for little kids like you. For Fozzie, he's going to a sleepover at Kermit's house. Seems like a great idea. That is, of course, until it's time to go to bed. And you're homesick. I know it happened to one of my cousins many years ago. And want to know a great solution to solve the homesickness problem? It's part of a storyline written by Ellen Weiss and illustrated by Tom Brandon titled The Muppet Kids In, I Want to Go Home. Let's get going. Fozzie, called Kermit. I have great news. Fozzie stopped bouncing his basketball to look at his best friend in the world. What's the great news, Kermit? He asked. Well, said Kermit, since you're coming over to my house to play with my new knock hockey set after school, I asked my parents if he could stay for dinner. Great, said Fozzie. He threw the ball and made a basket. What are you having? Spaghetti, said Kermit. That's not all. And I figured since there's no school tomorrow, maybe you could sleep over. So I asked my parents that too. They said yes. You can sleep over. Said Fozzie. He dropped the ball. Fozzie had never been on a sleepover before, except at his grandmother's house. He was excited, but he was also something else. Scared. After school, he went home and packed his overnight bag. And as he packed, he had a little talk with himself. Now, what if I get lonesome, he asked himself. I'll only be right next door, he told himself. What if I get scared in the middle of the night, he asked himself. I'll always come home, he told himself. His dad was reading the newspaper in the kitchen. Well, Pop, I'm all packed, said Fozzie. So you are, said his dad. Are you all ready for your sleepover? All ready, said Fozzie. Then he stood there for a minute. Pop, he said, what if I get lonesome? You'll only be right next door, said his dad. And Pop, said Fozzie, what if I get scared in the middle of the night? You can always come home, said Pop. Right, said Fozzie. Fozzie and Kermit played knock hockey for a long time in Kermit's room. And they played cards. And then they jumped in a pile of leaves. And then they helped Kermit's mom make dinner. At dinner, Kermit's family didn't tell jokes the way Fozzie's family did. They didn't play funny games or tell funny stories either. They just told each other what they'd done all day. Fozzie looked into his plate of spaghetti. What are all these little brown things, he asked politely. They're mushrooms, dear, said Kermit's mom. Mushrooms. Horrible, icky, slippery mushrooms. Fozzie wanted to run out of the room with his hand clamped over his mouth, but he knew it wouldn't be polite. At home, his parents never served mushrooms. Carefully, Fozzie picked out all the mushrooms and put them in a little pile on the side of his plate. After dinner, Fozzie and Kermit helped clean up. Kermit's dad washed and Fozzie dried. Fozzie picked up a wet dish. It slipped right out of his hands, crashed to the floor, and lay there in about 100 pieces. It's okay, Fozzie, said Kermit. Don't worry about it. But Fozzie felt horrible, horrible, horrible. The two of them played checkers for a while in Kermit's room. It was fun, but Fozzie still felt bad about the dish. Don't feel bad, Fozzie, said Kermit. I break things all the time. Yeah, but this is your house, said Fozzie. It's different. Kermit and Fozzie put on their pajamas and brushed their teeth. Kermit's mom had made up Fozzie's bed on the floor. There's a sleeping bag on an air mattress. Fozzie felt his pillow. It was kind of flat, not fluffy like his pillow at home. You could go home and get your pillow, suggested Kermit. But Fozzie thought that would make him feel pretty silly. It's all right, he said. I'll be okay with this one. At last it was bedtime. Fozzie was excited. He was really having a sleepover at Kermit's house. What do you do for bedtime? Asked Fozzie. I read for a while, and then I turn off my lights, said Kermit. Doesn't your dad tell you a good night joke? Asked Fozzie. Nope, said Kermit. Doesn't your mom read you a good night story? Asked Fozzie. Not anymore, said Kermit. Fozzie felt his throat begin to tighten up. No good night joke, no good night story, and no good night hugs and kisses either. This will be okay, said Fozzie to himself with determination. This will be okay. This will really be okay. They talked for a while, and then they turned off the light. There was a big, scary shape on the ceiling. Oh, that's just the shadow of my hat rack, explained Kermit. This will be okay, whispered Fozzie to himself. Fozzie lay in his sleeping bag for a while, looking at the ceiling. He felt lonely. He felt homesick. He felt embarrassed to be feeling lonely and homesick. In another few minutes, a big tear rolled down his cheek. This won't be okay, he said to himself. Kermit, he whispered. Kermit, you awake? Sort of, said Kermit. Kermit, said Fozzie. I'm lonely and homesick. A lot? Asked Kermit. Yeah, a lot, said Fozzie. Kermit turned on the light. But my house is nice, said Kermit. It's just like your house. It is nice, said Fozzie, but it's not my house. It's my parents. But they're right next door, said Kermit. Fozzie could tell that Kermit was trying, but he just didn't understand. Want to go home, Kermit, said Fozzie. Kermit's parents really tried to help Fozzie feel less embarrassed. This happened to me when I was your age, said Kermit's dad. Kermit's mom called up Fozzie's mom and said that Fozzie was coming home. I have an idea, said Kermit as Fozzie was packing his bag. Maybe I can come and sleep at your house, and we can still have our sleepover. And you wouldn't get lonely and homesick at my house, said Fozzie. Me? Never, said Kermit. All the parents liked the idea, so Kermit packed his bag and off they went. At Fozzie's house, Fozzie's mom had made a bed for Kermit. She had piled up lots of blankets and quilt. Oh, it's on Fozzie's floor. It's like the Princess and the Pea, she explained. Kermit tested it out. How's it feel? Asked Fozzie. A little hard, said Kermit. I'll be okay. They talked for a little while longer and turned out the light. Fozzie, said Kermit. Yes, Kermit, said Fozzie, snuggled up happily in his bed. Fozzie, what's that scary shape hanging on your wall? Asked Kermit. That's just my rubber chicken collection, said Fozzie. Oh, said Kermit. It was quiet for a few minutes. Fozzie, said Kermit. Fozzie, are you awake? Kind of, said Fozzie. It's very dark in here, said Kermit. You ever sleep with your door open? Fozzie thought Kermit's voice sounded a little funny. I don't usually, he said. Then he turned on the lamp. You okay, Kermit? There was one small tear hanging on the corner of Kermit's eye. Lonely and homesick, admitted Kermit. A lot, said Fozzie. Yes, a lot, said Kermit. So Kermit packed up his bag while Fozzie's pop called Kermit's mom. Don't be embarrassed about being homesick, said Fozzie's mom, who knew Kermit very, very well. Everybody feels that way sometimes. There will be plenty of times for sleepovers when you both get a little older. Ah, thanks, said Kermit shyly. He felt better. I have an idea, said Fozzie. He went into the kitchen and Kermit could hear him rummaging around in there. When he came back, Fozzie had 2 big paper cups on a long piece of string. He poked a hole in the bottom of each cup, put one end of the string through each hole, and then knotted the ends. There, he said. Now we can still have our sleepover. Then he walked Kermit home. Finally, it was really bedtime. Kermit sat up in his bed. With his shade open, he could see right into Fozzie's bedroom. Fozzie perched aside his curtains so he could see Kermit better. The paper cup telephone was all set up between the houses. Can you hear me? Shouted Fozzie into his paper cup. Pretty well, said Kermit, shouted back. It's turning out to be a good sleepover, isn't it? Shouted Fozzie. The best, yelled Kermit. Well, night, Kermit, said Fozzie. Sleep well. Don't let the bed bugs bite, said Fozzie, said Kermit. They waved at each other. Then they turned out their lights, went to sleep, and had good dreams all night. And that, boys and girls, concludes the story. I'll be back with you again tomorrow, same time, same channel.